Bring this utilities meeting to open at 6:45 p.m. 28. All right. Got a couple items of old business here to discuss from the last meeting. We talked about a storm sewer fee, and we kicked that to this meeting to make a decision, yay or nay. We discussed it's been proposed to put like $1 or $2 storm sewer fee on the water bills to start raising money so we can start repairing and redoing and actually putting in storm sewers, drains. We need some drains. There's been a couple times that I know when we redid Poplar, I think we took some storm drains out, which was not good. So now that's up for discussion here.
I think it's definitely something that's going to happen eventually. I mean, you know, our storm sewers are atrocious. We have all types of I&I. You know, the study that was done years ago was not good then, and it's only gotten worse. You know, we were having people's basements back up there for a while. I believe that situation has been taken care of, but it's just found that a lot of those, if I'm correct in my thinking, a lot of those are brick laid sewer mains, correct? Handling. So, I mean, it's just going to get worse. It was bad then, and it has to be worse now. So,
some of those storm tunnels are hundreds of years old.
Yes, original.
So I'm a big proponent of infrastructure improvement, repair, replacement, so on and so forth. If it's truly a need, then I think we need to be able to explain to the public how dire the need is and show clearly what the money is for, where it's going, and keep track of that account balance. And I'm going to say, if you're asking, should we tack on $1 or $2, I'm going to go $1 before I go $2. That would be my recommendation.
Here's the thought. It's going to take us a while to raise the funds. Would it be more proactive to put something on the ballot to do something major so that we can, instead of taking more years, because, you know, $1 or $2 is going to take years to get up to even matching funds for something, you know, Michael Betts could find money for. So if we were to possibly look at putting an initiative on the ballot in the future, you know, get that process started, get that done, and therefore then it'll be paid by all. Just
All property owners.
All the property owners will pay it.
Real estate, I would imagine.
Real estate, it'd be just probably like a school, almost like that. But if we were to do that to where we could get matching funds to do a major project, then, you know, I think that would be better than Bitcoin diving.
If that qualifies for matching funds, I'd try to go that route.
Isn't that how most of those work?
It is, and storm sewers are the harder projects to fund, and less sources of funding available for.
Right. So another alternative could be that we could try to appropriate some money for next year's budget also to kind of get it started, and then create potentially a fee as well, just so we could start. But yeah, okay. So these are good ideas. So I don't know if we're actually going to be able to actually. I think we're in favor of. It sounds like we're in favor of starting some.
We have to do something.
We have to.
And then any time we have issues with storm drains in the city, that could be a fund that could be, you know, used for those repairs.
Right.
Not taken from other
entities. Yeah.
What funds do those repairs usually come out of? Do we do any?
Storm.
I don't want to speak for Jason, but they don't have it. There's probably a dozen. There's places that could use work right away, but there's no money because you can't mix water sewer for storm.
Okay,
it's an explicit rule.
I know the money that's been allowed for that is very, very minimal.
Very minimal. Jason, do we do the linings that we talked about of some of those sewers?
We haven't, yeah.
They were talking, remember they talked about spraying them with a liner and getting a few more years out of them?
Yeah, next year, when we have a little bit more money.
Mr. Betts, do you have you had dealings with other cities or villages with this matter and how they, do you know how they've handled it?
Yes, we actually helped the city of Logan enact their stormwater utility. And they did it on a impervious area basis, meaning we analyzed what the average home or residence had in terms of impervious area. The roof and the driveway on your typical residential lot is your impervious area. And then we used that to come up with an equivalent unit and then applied that systematically to your commercial buildings, industrial buildings, Walmart, much larger impervious area compared to your residential customer. And they went about it with that methodology so that the bigger users were paying a higher share of the cost. And then I've seen the smaller towns, a lot of the even smaller towns have simply done a flat $2, $3 fee applied to their bills. So I've seen it done in a variety of ways. Now, the Logan example takes some time and investment from, what we did was take aerial imagery and trace out those areas, do all those calculations, and then get a sampling, and then calculated what it is for the larger users that were going to be placed on a larger cost. So.
And then that went on their, like, the real estate taxes then, is that how?
No, it's right on their utility bill.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's called a stormwater utility. You actually form a utility, it takes a little bit of legislation, and it serves just like your other utility funds.
Okay.
Yes.
I hate to be ignorant, what the heck is impervious used as in this
Sorry.
situation?
So grass is pervious, I should say, grass and dirt where the water will absorb.
Oh,
And your roof.
well then, I got it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when they passed that, was that something passed by their legislative authority, or did they run it through a ballot, like Corey mentioned?
Don't hold me to it, but I'm 90% sure it was a legislative authority thing.
Okay, if we do a ballot issue next year would be the ideal time to do it. We wouldn't have to pay extra on November's election. So otherwise wouldn't be able to do it this year, obviously, this November. If we do a special one, it costs, I think, about $5,000 to do a special.
You can do it with primaries, couldn't you?
Yes. Can you do it on primaries? With no additional cost? Oh.
I think their rule is as long as there's polling stations open, any type in this locality, then they don't charge.
Okay, so then it would come down to what methodology do we want to determine, like, the cost and then how it's assessed in terms of legislatively on a utility bill, or do it on the ballot?
The ballot would go on the taxes, correct? I believe. No? So if we did an initiative, if we did an initiative like how we do the streetlights, if we put it on a ballot for a vote, that would go on our taxes.
It just wouldn't be a utility then.
Right.
It would be a tax levy.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'd be more likely to get buy-in from citizens if it were put to a ballot.
And if it fails,
I got another question.
Mhm.
I think this is a great idea. But how many of you are in this room? Not very many. And how are you going to go about showing the people how really important it is? Is there a
think we
way to do
I
that?
think we could put together some photos, some information packets, and advertise a public hearing for that purpose. And put it on, the radio station
We'd have to have an education team.
and have an education campaign.
And I think some of the people that have high water in front of their houses
Would understand.
would
Bring
understand
them,
for sure.
you've got to bring them in so that they can explain what
Explain
it's
the
like.
situation, yeah. Because most people will say, well, you really don't need that. No, guys.
Well, and it's not only the current, it's not only what the new that we need, it's also the current areas that are. I mean,
Affected right now.
I mean, we had, I think, we kind of had an issue with this, water line going up Fort Street where we're trying to, get, a tunnel that was down there. You know?
Yeah.
So it's, it's.
Tunnel wasn't on the maps.
Yeah, so then it's like, then they gotta do repairs to it, so that money gotta come from someplace, right?
Didn't they have a water main too?
That's up on Pleasant.
So Jason, Tony mentioned I&I. For people that don't know what that is, what is I&I?
The water infiltration, like groundwater infiltrating the sewers.
And sewer infiltrating the.
It's-
We have some cross contamination, I believe.
Yeah, there's cross contamination, but the I is actually
Water.
water infiltrating into the sewer system.
And imagine brick, hand laid brick with mortar over 100 and some years old. There's gonna be a lot of that.
Which there's stormwater getting into the sewer system that overflows the pumps in the sewer plant and all that stuff. It makes it
Yeah, you end up
more
treating rainwater.
Yes.
So what are our thoughts here in terms of, oh, yeah, I keep looking at you, stop talking.
That's a big hit.
So what are our thoughts here in terms of how would we want to try to put it on the ballot then in?
I think
We need to do some research,
I think we need to do some research.
put together an educational campaign,
Exactly.
get the word out there, and then once it gets on the ballot, there'll be no gray area. There'll be no questions. People understand why we're doing it and why we need to do it and what the effects have been of it. So,
And then how do we determine the amount? That comes down to a millage, right? So do we do an impervious study? How much is that gonna cost us?
Yeah, I could provide some information, a little more information to you all about what we did there. And as you were talking, it reminded me, they formed a stormwater advisory committee, SWAC, I think it was. And they invited people from the community to be involved in that, where they held meetings to discuss it, to work out what the cost would be. Kind of identify what your needs are, what the use of funds need is, how much the repairs that need to be done, and what's that gonna cost? And then, use that to determine how much to apply to the residential units. So I'll summarize some of that information on what we did and kind of some of the costs that be involved.
Okay, perfect. So then are we okay, trying to gather some of this information and push that to the next meeting then for more discussion?
I get the sense that we'd rather do it now.
$1 or $2 fee. Jason, how many water meters are in town?
200.
So if we did $1, that's only $2,200 a month.
$24,000 a year. Yeah.
We really need to know what the cost is.
Yeah, we need to know what the cost is and what we need to
That
do.
was where a relatively small project cost.
Okay.
It all depends, but I tell you, I'm gonna talk
You're
about,
deep. That's the problem with stormwater and sewer.
yeah, I'm gonna talk about a change order for the sewer we did up here that's less than 1,000 feet, it's $100,000.
All right. So that we'll get some more information, and as I get it, from Mr. Betts, and I'll pass it along, and then we'll discuss then some more details, in the next meeting. Last little business was, water abatement policy. We said we would discuss it further here regarding like one time, people with swimming pools and stuff. But having a written policy on this, and how do we want to, move forward?
Isn't there a written policy on all of them? I think that there is.
Sorry to interrupt, but we actually have a sample abatement policy coming before the finance committee this evening
For,
for swimming pools and such.
Oh, kind of skipped it, didn't it?
I didn't write it.
That's how it works.
who wrote it? It's yours.
Oh, my draft one?
Yeah.
I still got some.
Oh, okay. Well, we've been discussing it here, having it, but, that's probably been a while since I saw that, but yeah. But I don't know if what we want to discuss further, or what are you guys gonna discuss in finance with?
I guess, yeah, and Taylor actually sent the agenda on to us, but basically to discuss whether it would be something we allow,
Right.
I
I think, talking to, Devin about it, it would be nice to have a policy in place that way it's regardless of who's in the city manager's spot, there's
Yeah,
a
just
precise
needs to
measure of what to do.
be,
What's
needs
the
to either be yes or no.
Yes,
There
yeah,
shouldn't be-
because right now, it's up to discretion and every city manager is different,
There
right?
should be
So,
policies for all these things.
Yeah.
Whoever can step in and
right,
run it.
so I don't know if you guys want to discuss that further, or, we can move on to the new business, and sounds like, Mr. Betts has some stuff for us, let's see. For the sake of time, we only have 15 minutes. So, we just, want to push on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it sounds like there's multiple committees that have their fingers on that.
Yeah, so, all right, so we'll move on to new business, so. Mr. Betts, what do we got?
Good evening. I've got a couple of items to discuss on various projects. First, the wastewater treatment plant demolition is scheduled to begin in October. It's looking like later October now, the old sewer plant. And there was discussion about keeping the old office building to potentially use as a restroom for the dog park. So I need an answer on that. Right now, it's in the contract to be demolished, and, we can certainly proceed with that. Start fresh down there, or I just wanted to, ask the question before that work's done, to be sure.
Worst case scenario, I'm just talking aloud, it could be left there for storage.
How big is this building?
Big as this room?
It's not this big.
Not even this big?
I mean, it could be left there as storage. They can lock stuff up in it.
But it's just mandatory.
Yeah.
I mean, so you just carry stuff in.
Yeah, it would cost thousands of dollars to build that structure to rebuild it. So if you have it there, doesn't cost you anything. Right?
It's not gonna have power.
That doesn't mean that power for
I'm just
storage.
saying.
What condition is the roof in on that building?
I've not analyzed it closely, so
You can put a roof on for about $1,000. Well, sheet metal, about $1,000, $1,500.
So, again, worst case scenario, we can mothball the building. There you go.
I have one more question. If it's mothballed, would it have tight accessibility, because it would be a really nice place if I didn't have a place to live to spend the winter?
I think it could be secured, couldn't it, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they use it as an office right now. Now it is enclosed in fencing, but sure it could be locked up, secure. There's a little work. I know there's a little workshop in the front of it where they stored all their parts and pieces there. It's an office, a restroom, and a little kitchenette was about it.
All right, and put 2 bathrooms in there, what kind of cost would that be to renovate?
I'd be giving you bad information. I'd just be guessing. I would say, so if you did it locally with a local contractor below your threshold for public bid, and rental wage is gonna be a lot different than it would with a public project like I just tried to do. Our public projects, it's gonna be scores of thousands of dollars. And then I would consider probably $5,000 to $10,000 for an electrician to hook in a new electric service drop to that, because right now it's fed from the central pump station building. New service that.
And if we just, and timeline wise, once this gets, let's just say we take it down, like the current plan is, we take it down, then how quickly does the rest of the dirt get, leveled out? Will that happen immediately too then? And
Yeah, so when they start demolition, they figure a week or 2 to complete the work. Like I mentioned, they plan to do that in October, so yeah, it'd be covered up. It'll be all part of the demolition work they're gonna do. There's deep tanks they gotta knock in and take out various pieces of components, but then fill in, so it'll all happen at once in a couple weeks.
Okay. So committee, what are our thoughts on? I want to
I've got
maintain
a
this.
quick question, I apologize. Where the building sits, is it like in the middle of the park where the park would be? Is it toward an edge?
The end toward,
Towards Rocky.
yeah.
All the way, yeah, towards the end.
And surrounded by its own fence, correct?
Pardon me?
It's surrounded by its own fence?
No, it's within the fence that surrounds the entire site.
Okay. Mr. Charles, your deep thought.
All right, let's do a cost analysis, cost benefit analysis. Demolishing it versus keeping it. If we keep it and we end up not using it, how much is that gonna cost us to tear it down later? If we keep it and we use it, how much is it gonna cost us to, if we decide to, put power in there or whatever other, we need? Versus tearing it down and then 5 years later deciding we need a building, how much is it gonna cost to replace it? I'd like to see those figures before I make a decision on that.
How quickly are you guys looking to do?
Well, as I mentioned, it's been delayed, so we have at least a couple weeks to work on that.
I'm inclined to think that if we keep the building, we can decide what to do with it later. But how much would demolition cost us after the fact, more than what we could do right away?
Yeah, and with it being a part of the demolition of the whole thing, the cost is much more efficient, of course, or less. There it
What's the
is.
grade of the building versus where we're gonna be filling in?
It's higher,
Okay.
so it sits up, if you can imagine the floodplain down there, it's built up above that, I think, 2 feet, so it's elevated.
What do you think the city would actually use it for? And would we?
I mean, if it could be turned into bathrooms.
The utility department wouldn't store anything. We have enough buildings here. We
On
wouldn't
site.
store anything there, and there's actually, the garage at the new sewer plant was designed to house the back truck, which is housed at the water plant on this end of town, since we use it all the time. There's no sense putting it down there, so they have a full bay down there. They can store it in.
So I'm not getting a sense that there's a real benefit to keeping it, especially if the demolition's already factored into the project cost.
And then we can, if they, in the dog park, it's gonna probably take a little time for them to get funds to be able to do work there anyway, so, and if that happens in the next year or two, we can get Fort John. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And for dog park, what pieces of parts really do you need to store?
I don't think we need much other than it'd be nice to have a restroom there, I get that, but you know.
If we can decide later on, we can put porta potties in there or build something or something like that.
We used to rent Fort Johns for down in Poly all the time. Okay, so I would say, looks like we're in favor of demolishing it.
I think it's a better option.
We'll proceed that route unless we hear different. Next, I had, we discussed doing a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new sewer plant, ribbon cutting ceremony, potential open house combined with that. We need to pick a date, I'd say, so we can invite the appropriate folks.
Yeah, Friday, I like the Friday, October 20th at 10 a.m.
How long does it take to get the plaque?
I don't know that we'll have it for that. I'll have to find that out, but I'd be surprised if we did. I can see what we can make happen. Does that date work? Should we just run with it, get it scheduled?
Works fine for me.
I was gonna say, I don't see.
I'm in town all the time.
What's the date?
October 20th at 10 a.m.
Thank you. That'll work for me.
Good. Water phase 2. You guys talked a little bit about it. We've ran into issues with existing utilities up there. Essentially, the guys did the best they could to locate the existing water main and sewer line, and unfortunately, we're off with those locates. The contractor hit the water line. They were down time, significant time, because this was a large bore starting on one end of the overpass to the other and goes out right away. So it's a bore. Actually, I had to put I think a 30-inch reamer on it. Is that right, Jason? 24-inch reamer to pull a large pipe back through an 18. So they hit the water main. And they'd spend a couple days drilling through rock to get to that point. So they had to start over. When they started over, they had a sewer line that was in an unknown location there. So it turned into about 32 hours of lost time before we were able to get them in a location where they could squeeze through there. To compound things, the sewer line, the contractor did spend time televising that, and they found approximately over 700 feet of it has collapsed. And this is in the area right around the overpass. And
And that's feeding the old prison.
and feeding the old prison, exactly what
That's probably
I
why
said.
it's
And, there was some,
Vibration.
Hi, Dan.
yeah. There was some, voids in the ground, I guess I'd say, where they did uncover it, so the ground's not, I don't think, the most stable in there. So we, Jason and I worked, thinking the best thing to do would be to get a price from the contractor to bore in a HDPE sewer line, to replace that 738 feet as part of this project while we have the funding. So between the delay, which was $25,417.30, and the new sewer line, that would add $108,587.60, which included 2 new manholes as well. That brings a, that would be the total change order that I'll probably present to council at the next meeting for approval. And I wanted to bring that to your attention ahead of time, through the committee here. So, again, that sewer does need to be addressed. The EPA said that they would fund, the sewer that was damaged as part of the water project, because this is, water money that we're going to go sewer with. So, I will present that to council on the 9th, and, that'll leave us with $336,784.80 project. So we're digging into it quicker than I'd like, but it's just a tough scenario up there.
Yeah, it was just, over the years, when they installed utilities, there was never wire put in with anything to locate it. Everything in there now gets wire, so you can hook a locator to it and actually locate it. It's just kind of a guess, which and sticks to try to find it.
But yeah, well, I mean, if that,
I'm all right with
Prison.
that, that forward.
yeah, if the prison's gonna come back online, it has to be fixed.
Yeah, they're telling us they're going out 250.
Right.
At the prison. Like they
That
said,
sounds about right.
roughly,
Yeah,
that's
it's
their
less.
guess,
Yeah.
around 250 people.
Nice.
So I'll see you on the 9th with that. And then the last item I had, back in July, we discussed the phase 3 water project and potential funding scenarios that we could put together for that project, since it was not funded with EPA money last year. I brought that for your consideration. At first, I'll show you, well, the first map on the back is that water and sewer. I won't run through that due to the time constraints. The last map includes the lines that are in the phase 3 water that we were considering. I'll just start at the left over here. It included Church Street, all of Poplar from, I think that's Fayette down to Sane, Jackson Street and Steiger Street, and a little bit on Grosvenor. And it also included Carbon Hill Local Road, where we've got just a menagerie of issues. And then also the water line out along State Route 78, where they've got a 2-inch, existing 2-inch line feeding the whole north end of Bookville there. So you can see the area that it covers for that price of $4,536,000. So a couple of funding scenarios. I worked with Curtis Trickman of ARCAP. The first one here, we're going to apply for the EPA funding again in March, I'm sure, if the city still desires to. And that first one represents what we normally get there, which is a 50-50 split, with the 50% of loan being a 0% for 30 years. The second one represents a scenario where we could secure a $750,000 grant from ARC and the same amount from CDBG, which is 2 programs we've used both here in the city on previous sewer projects. So we've done that. The third is just with one of those funding sources coming on board, and then the fourth scenario is the worst case, where it's all loan at 0% interest, and you can see the resulting loan payments. And I wanted to just give you that range so you kind of knew what you were getting into, best case versus worst case. And that one is at 30 years. And the second page, the EPA will actually let you go 40 years on your loan if you'd like, and you can see the resulting loan payments there if you finance it at 40 years versus 30 years. That would range from $56,700 annually to $113,400. So again, I just wanted to get you that information so you could, I don't know if you want to run through finance or what your next steps are.
What would it take, since you're getting Poplar Street done?
Yeah.
it would be great if you somehow could add on, and I know this is a stretch, Chestnut Street. You know, like street by street by street, all new water lines and have a whole street. Is there a reason why we didn't throw Chestnut in there, or is it okay, or is it?
I think this was the focus. We were just kind of systematically,
We don't have a lot of problems.
Yeah, is it old pipe, but has it ever been replaced?
It's old story. But like the one in State Route 78, most of that over there is transport.
and part of, I think, our strategy was to pick some areas where we've had a lot of blowhards and leaks. We're trying to, as we do these projects, address as many problem areas as possible, so the guys are freed up to do other work. In fact, it's a great example of why we're doing these projects. The line on Burke Boulevard that we're replacing right now, we found a leak that's
Monday Creek.
probably leaking anywhere from 10 to 20 plus gallon a minute right now.
Yeah, from what we can see, that's not counting what's going under the water.
Yeah, so that's well over 100,000 gallons a day.
Wow.
Can I ask a question?
We're at time, but yeah.
Mr. Betts, what's the average lifespan or life cycle of the improvements on here? And I ask because of the financing scenario.
50 years.
Okay.
It is a minimum. That's what we put on as a useful life. You'll start replacing your setters and some of the stuff before then, obviously, but your lines are like to say at least 100 years. We're replacing lines that are 100 years old. So again, that's just for your consideration. You can advise me back on how you'd like to move forward when appropriate.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are at time, but just real quick, if we can take a few minutes here. You guys did review the trash RFP that I sent you guys? Okay, any objections or changes to that then? Okay, so we'll go ahead and publish it and put that out.
Yep.
And then Mr. Staffington had brought up at the last meeting, the ArcGIS work order integration system. And we have $22,000 with ARPA funds that do that. You mentioned about bringing that forward. Okay with that?
Okay with that.
Okay. Then we'll make sure that that legislation is there for the next meeting as well. So, very good.
I don't foresee a problem with his, phase 3.
I
I
don't
think it's a great idea.
I don't see an issue with it, to be honest. But, okay, then we will adjourn at 7:17 p.m. and sorry for going into your P&D. Thanks a lot.